I'm Mike Miller, the 7-8 learning specialist here at Prospect Sierra. It's only my second year, so I still feel pretty new, and I'm kind of quiet by nature. So when I was a kid, I always took a long time to gather my thoughts before talking, if I ever said anything at all. And I'm basically just a bigger version of that kid. But there's something I've wanted to say since last year, and I actually think it might be useful to you, and maybe even help you have a happier school year. Though it might just make you think about Fruit Loops or Poodle Ballet or something without 2 O's in a row. Tell you what, if you tell me later what this thing actually makes you think about, I will give you a llama sticker or a high 4. Sorry, it's going to be my choice which of those you get. So here's what I'm talking about. You'll need your brain for this, but I think it'll probably come willingly. Okay, this may seem random, but luckily everything is connected. And connection is the key to everything. That's actually the punchline of this thing if you want to write it down or chant it or something. Connection is the key to everything. And I think it is what school is really all about. But let me prove that to you. Okay, imagine you're in a car traveling a straight road at a steady speed. You probably don't think much about it, but if you listen, the car is making a car sound from the engine. Now say you drive by somebody standing on the side of the road. Let's say it's a marmot in a top hat. As you drive by, you can still hear that engine sound, and the marmot can hear it too. But to you, it still sounds like but to the marmot, it sounds like This is because sound travels in waves through the air. Sound waves kind of shaped like a big spring winding away from the engine. And as the car is going toward the marmot, those waves are getting a little squished because the car is kind of pushing them. And that makes the sound get higher as the car gets closer. It always sounds the same inside the car because the engine is always the same distance from the inside of the car. But for the marmot, right after the car passes, now it's like the car is pulling and stretching those sound waves out, so the sound gets lower. So the point is, if you ask the marmot, and whoever's in the car what that engine sounds like, they'd say different things. And they'd both be right. This kind of feels like nature telling us not to be so quick to reject other points of view, doesn't it? Of course, we shouldn't just go, well, I guess we'll agree to disagree, or
whatever, I mean, that's just your opinion, Mr. Marmot.
No, we should bring curiosity to it, right? And ask, wait, could we both be right? If so, how? And why? And then, instead of a feud, you have a stylish new marmot friend on top of a chance to learn something you didn't know. But wait, I'm not even here to talk about marmots or sound waves. Nope. I want to talk about light. You know the way sound waves squish and stretch if they're coming from something moving? Light waves do the same thing. Yep, when something is coming towards you, the light from it gets a little bit bluer as the light waves squish. And when it's going away, the light waves get a little bit redder. I mean, don't run away from someone and expect them to tell you you're turning red, though I have been known to turn red and run away, but of course one didn't cause the other. Light wave frequencies are more than 1 trillion times higher than sound waves. So for a noticeable color shift, we have to be talking about seriously extreme motion. And where do we get such extreme things? Well, one day, or actually over many nights, an astronomer noticed that the stars were getting a little bit redder over time. So he checked around the sky and found that it wasn't just 1 or 2 stars, and it wasn't just a couple hundred stars, but all the stars were getting redder all the time, which meant all the stars were moving away from us and from each other all the time, and they still are. The universe is expanding. Then somebody smart said, wait, if it is expanding, then if we look back in time, the universe must get smaller the further back you go. We should do some math. And guess what? They did some math and figured out that if we reverse the expansion of the universe, then almost 14 billion years ago, the whole universe was contained in an incredibly small, dense thing that they decided to call the singularity. So that means almost 14 billion years ago, for some reason, the singularity apparently started to spread out, apparently violently, so we called that the Big Bang. The awesome thing about this is it gave us a starting line. The Big Bang marks the beginning of just about everything we know or have theories about. And I'm fine with all that. I mean, I have a lot of questions, but it doesn't hurt my brain. No, what hurts my brain is this. Soon after the Big Bang, almost 14 billion years ago, there's basically a whole bunch of hydrogen, the simplest atom, and a few other simple elements shooting through space, occasionally collecting in clumps, and the bigger clumps have more gravity, and the really big ones have so much gravity that the pressure and friction in their middle gets super hot and bursts into flame. And suddenly there is starlight in this brand new, expanding universe. So explain this to me. Almost 14 billion years ago, the universe has a little starlight and some basic elements flying through space. And now, almost 14 billion years later, we somehow have Fruit Loops and volcanoes and this guy and quinceañeras and boss fights and naked mole rats and pickleball and fire trucks and Lego fire trucks and Lego Millennium Falcons and toy companies and good movies made by toy companies and electric eels and saguaro cacti and gum that's like a party in your mouth and you and joy and despair and yo-yo champions and romance and irony and plate tectonics and chocolate covered bacon and did I mention you? And everything you've ever seen, heard, or felt and everything you haven't that exists. And the only thing less likely than any one of those things coming from a burst of hydrogen and a few other things almost 14 billion years ago is all of these things coming from a burst of hydrogen and a few other things almost 14 billion years ago. So I hope this brings up some questions for you. This is what school is for. School is where we do our best to explain all of this. What happened? How did all this get here? And why? We've been thinking about this and experimenting and arguing for at least 100,000 years. So we figured out a lot. I'd say we figured out at least a gazillionth of all the things, which is pretty good. School is where we try to catch you up on that process, on all the latest stuff we figured out, or at least made smart guesses about. So you can contribute to the process too, in whatever ways you want to. And it's all connected. You are connected to all of these things. If you exist, then you are literally connected to everything. There are 14 billion year old atoms in you, almost. You're related to every other creature on Earth, and the natural laws that put this rock in this mud pot also govern your spleen and your family and your backpack. So why doesn't it feel like that? Why does school feel like it has nothing to do with me, like a lot of the time? This sense of disconnection is false, deeply, demonstrably false, but it feels true to a lot of us, a lot of the time. Why? I see an old reason and a new reason. Ready? The old one is specialization. The new one is COVID-19. Let me explain the old one first. Specialization. So, imagine the first people. Hold on. What does that even mean? The first people. Let's look at that 14 billion year timeline again, just for a second. So as crazy as it might be that hydrogen bursting from a dot led to a universe of stars and planets and dark matter and nebulas, if we zoom in on the tiniest front tip of that timeline, we can see a much smaller timeline that starts with a fish crawling onto land to get food and ends with the Nicholas brothers and January 6th, among other things. To me, the fish thing seems way less likely than the nebula thing. That's not science, that's just me enjoying having opinions. But my point is, where on that timeline did the fish become a tap dancer? If that seems like too big a leap, which leap is small enough to pinpoint? Fish to lizard? Dinosaur to bird? Hunter-gatherer to influencer? No switch ever gets flipped, like poof, hey fish, now you're a mouse. It's all flow. It's all a flow of continuous change. And we decide that things with certain characteristics are a certain thing, as if that's a fixed state. But things are actually changing all the time. It's just that the categories help us communicate with one another and make infinitely complex things simple enough to understand. And understanding things is where specialization comes in. People are designed to be with people. Staying connected with our family, friends, community, species, the universe is probably the most important part of being alive. Which is funny, because whether or not we can actually feel it right now, we literally are connected to all those things by our shared history, genes, and raw materials, stardust. But like I said, it doesn't always feel that way, which is a problem. So back to those first-ish humans. Probably one of the first-ish things they figured out was that we are better together. We're safer, we're happier, we're smarter, and check it out. If I hunt and you get water and Molly fishes and Bluto makes clothes, well then Grandma and Grandpa can just sit back and tell us all they've learned in their 25 years and maybe make some art. And we'll all keep getting smarter and living longer. Specializing allows us to survive together better. But a lot of us eventually made a mistake. We thought that specialization was the secret sauce that made life awesome, that made individual people awesome. So we should focus on that. But that's not right. Togetherness and connection, that's the secret sauce. Specialization can help with effective collaboration, but it's the togetherness of the collaboration that makes it all worthwhile for most of us. So zoom forward 30,000 years and we figured out a ton of stuff. We have a gazillion categories and a gazillion specialists and a gazillion schools where people strive to become important by specializing so much that other specialists don't understand what they're saying. You know you've arrived. You're an expert when no one who is not an expert understands what you are saying. Because only the experts in that category use those words. And now, unfortunately, even kids know. Knowing special words is a mark of greatness, and they make fun of people who don't know things. A flurp? What's that? What? You don't know what a flurp is? Hey everybody, they don't know what a flurp is. Now freeze right there. Unkindness like this is obviously never good. But it would at least kind of make sense in a brutal world if specialization really were the secret sauce of human happiness. But it super is not. Togetherness, connectedness, that is the secret sauce. And specialization is just a really valuable tool to help us get better at staying connected and understanding connections. That kid who doesn't know what a flurp is could tell you, if we forget what specialization is supposed to be for, it can disconnect us from each other and from the universe we are so much a part of. Let's not make that mistake. Think about it. When everything you know was just a little molten speck of potential almost 14 billion years ago, the fish and the Fruit Loops and the sonnets and volcanoes were all mixed up in that singularity. And so was the Spanish, collab, art, humanities, math, music, and science. Not only are all of these just made up categories humans use to hold all of this endless knowledge and joy and curiosity, the feeling that you are separate from it all is an illusion too. What are you really studying in school? The history, present, and future of you. Don't let the divisions make it seem disconnected. It's not. So, my first challenge to you, when school is hard or boring or seems irrelevant, remember that everything in that class is really connected to you and to all the other subjects. Ask yourself, what's the math in this humanities topic we're not thinking about? What would an artist see in this science lesson that is beautiful or frightening or full of hidden meaning? The subjects you study are truly connected to one another. Try to see where these connections are hidden. I guarantee you, if you get your assigned work done, your teacher would love to hear about the connections you are noticing or wondering about. I mean, you can't use big thoughts to avoid the work in front of you, but you should use big thoughts to help you stay motivated as you go. And bring that curiosity to the people in your world as well as the ideas. Be kind to the person who does not know, because we are all that person sometimes. And compared to all there is to know, none of us knows much. But not knowing together as well as finding out together, is not just the best path, it's also the best destination. If we are together as we go, we can keep going more joyfully because we've actually arrived. And then there's COVID. COVID-19 happened, the ultimate disconnector. Obviously, COVID lockdown took us away from playdates, church, restaurants, sports, and so many other ways we're used to staying connected. And I think everyone agrees that online learning just doesn't work as well for most people, for most subjects, as in-person learning does. So most people are worried that we didn't learn enough during lockdown, and that may be true. But I think we're making that mistake again where we think specialization is the point. School is about learning stuff, but it's also about learning skills, and the most important ones may be about learning to be together, learning to stay connected and take care of each other while we learn, because learning is a lifelong job, and connection is the point of life.
And continuing to shamelessly oversimplify literally everything.
In kindergarten, first and second grade, we learn the basics of communication and being together. ABC, 1, 2, 3. Take turns, share, be kind, try new things, make mistakes, keep trying, help each other do that. And then in grades 3, 4, and 5, the questions get deeper and relationships get more complicated. And one of the most important things that enables us to tread new ground and explore more challenging ideas is that we're all in this together at school. We're not just getting more knowledgeable, we're getting better and better at being and working together. As we each figure out more and more about who we are as individuals in grades 3, 4, and 5, we also learn more and more about all of us as a group. Our school successes and struggles are not just our own, but part of the glue that holds us together. And COVID stopped all that learning and growing together. In the first 2 years of COVID, a lot of us didn't feel connected to each other, and the things we learned didn't seem connected to us or the other things we learned. So now we're back in school together, but without 2 years of growing and learning together that usually happen. We sometimes don't have any idea how to connect to the group or how the things we learn are connected to each other and to all of us. It's super not fair that other kids before COVID learned so much of this stuff without even trying. But the good news is this: we can learn all of this on purpose. And when we learn things on purpose, our learning is often deeper and stronger than unintentional learning. The challenge becomes a good thing. So back to my 2 challenges to you. 1, look for the hidden connections between everything you learn and everything else. It's all really just humans trying to organize and understand our journey from the Big Bang to you, here, now. 2, the pandemic took away lots of our in-school time when we usually first start really learning to connect and thrive in a group of curious learners. So how do we catch up on that learning? Honestly, it all comes down to kindness. There are 1,000 ways to be kind every day, and these acts open up the doors to connection. When we were apart, we didn't get to flex our kindness muscles so much. So now we need to seek out opportunities to be kind so it can feel more normal and less risky, and so we can get better at it. That will make us better at everything. Cheer for the person who makes a mistake because they tried, which is brave and kind to the group. Don't make fun of them for not being perfect, which is unkind to them, the group, and yourself. We're all a little or a lot anxious after the pandemic. Even if many people want to act like we aren't. Believe me, we are. It's a scientific fact. Middle school is stressful anyway. And it's even harder right now when almost everyone is trying to catch up on things that no one is officially in charge of teaching. It's really hard to be kind when you are scared or insecure or frustrated. And we all feel one of those ways more often than usual right now. So when you do see a way to be kind, big or small, and you can do it, please do. Look for connection in all the things you learn and build connections with all the people around you. If we prioritize those 2 things as well as we can each day, instead of this pandemic messing up your generation forever, it will turn you into superheroes. It will turn you into people who can show all the other people, both older and younger than you, how to intentionally create the kind of world we all wish we could live in, but which most generations wouldn't have the skills to bring about. You will. And now it's your turn. Have a wonderful school year, and don't forget to come and get your llama sticker or high 4. We're full of hidden meaning. This is hard. I lost my place. Delilah, you're being really loud. Sound waves. The awesome school explains all of this.
There's a typo in my script.
2. Sorry. Gosh, it's really hot in here.
I think that's it.